Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk. Time for the show. Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU has been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. I hate when it's me that's not turned my phone off. I'm not so bothered when it's someone else.
It's happened too many times. Oh no,
yeah.
Code now. Okay, that's off.
Brilliant. I'll sometimes put in an introduction afterwards, but with yourself, I've kind of done a little bit of research, and again, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, because it can just make me try and have too much of an idea of what I'm trying to get out of it. Yep. I don't think the amount of information I found online probably reflects the amount that you've done. It's maybe kind of inversely proportional or something. So first of all, Andy Smith, welcome to the Once a DJ podcast.
Thank you. Great to be on here.
So just to get started, what I tend to do is just kind of look at where DJing's taken people, how they got into it, what it's done for them when it's been difficult, all that kind of stuff where it intersperses with the rest of life, you know.
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me about what I read about you was that you got into DJing probably a decade earlier than most of my other guests. Did you get into it early 70s? Is that right?
Well, I mean, I got into music in 78, and then 79, I was into the idea of having two decks together, and because disco was big and mixing records was a thing that was happening in New York, and I was excited by it.
How were you learning about what was happening in New York at that time? Were you based in Bristol, right?
Yeah, well, I lived in Portishead, actually, which is a place just outside of Bristol. And me and my friend Nick, who I still DJ with now, Nick Hawkes, who started XL and everything, we were the only two kids in school that were aware of this kind of club culture that was going on in New York, and I guess parts of the UK, but not too much. Everybody else at school was like into heavy metal, or you know, two-tone mod revival stuff. You know, it wasn't really that cool to be into Hamilton Bohannon and stuff like that, and the Whispers. You know, but we, I mean, you know, how did we find out about it? Probably like bits of radio. I mean, late 70s, the local radio wasn't as good as it was early 80s. It really picked up early 80s for us. But I suppose listening to John Peel playing a mixed bag of stuff, and then every now and again you just catch some interesting things on the radio. And I guess reading magazines like Black Echoes, Blues and Soul, just reading about these scenes that were going on, like I say, in New York, and then you know, in the jazz funk scene in Essex and stuff like that, and people like DJ like Froggy, who was, you know, one of the first people who went to New York and went to the Paradise Garage and saw Larry Levan and thought, oh, I could do that in the UK. So we were on what was kind of going on in this world of kind of DJing and mixing records. Mixing records was a new thing, you know. You buy like like a mixed LP. I remember going on a school trip, we went swimming to Yate, which is the other side of Bristol, and all of us piled into a coach. And when we were waiting for the coach, I went in John Menzies, which was a department store, and like every department store had a record department in those days. And I bought this mix album called Winners, with no sleeve, 75p, still got a sticker on it. And one side was all ballads, slow tunes, and the other side was segued together, all mixed together, no gaps in it. It's the first time I'd ever heard a record that was all mixed together, and pretty well for the time as well. They started off with the Jacksons, into the Whispers, into Rufus and Shaka Khan and Isaac Hayes, and it was just amazing. Like how did they? Because you couldn't see DJing in those days. It wasn't on the telly. There was no YouTube. It's like how did they string those tunes together and make it sound so good? And this was out. The Technics SL1200 Mark II had only just come out at that point, so didn't even know if they were using those. So it was just an exciting thing that was going on a long way away. That me and Nick, and I guess because there was the two of us, we bounced off each other. Although I haven't said that, we used to play football before we got into music, but then we started getting into music, and we both into this kind of DJing kind of aspect of it, rather than just collecting records like other people were,
Yeah, so that's interesting. You were on it early. And with John Peel, I mean, a big thing about him is just the huge range of music that he would play, right?
Yeah. I didn't like it all.
Yeah, well, I mean, he gets pretty out there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Or did.
Yeah.
But do you think, because that's another thing about you that I'm sure we'll go into more detail about, is the wide range of music that you like, that you DJ, that you've done compilations of. Do you think that came from having that broad spectrum?
I think it probably did. It wasn't unusual when I started going out to clubs. I mean, that would have been like early 80s, but it wasn't unusual to hear lots of different music on the same night. Obviously, if you went to a pop disco type thing, and a mobile disco, we used to have them in our school. Actually, the local mobile DJs would come in, bring their decks in. That's the first time I'd ever seen a set of decks, and they would play pop music and a bit of rock and a bit of sort of disco and everything. Yeah, so. And even when I used to go clubbing in the early 80s, it was before these kind of scenes had really kind of started. So you would hear soul and hip hop and even early house when it came along on the same night. It wasn't unusual to hear lots of stuff together. And I've always, been into lots of different stuff. Like even like I say, my friends at school were into heavy metal or into two-tone. It was the thing in those days to kind of buy a blank TDK cassette and you give it to your friend, and I'd say, can you record that Motorhead album onto a cassette for me? And then I'd give a tape to another guy, can you record the first Specials album onto a cassette? So I'd be assimilating all this music on tape. And then I had a friend who was got into jazz, and I'd give him a cassette, can you record some, I don't know, Lee Ritenour or some crazy jazz stuff, And I was just, always kind of into lots of different stuff. I was never like one of the people who would be part of a tribe, I'm only into this kind of thing. I mean, I was aware of those scenes and admired the people that were into those scenes and, who had all the fashion and were the part. But I just thought, well, if you're just into that thing, then you're missing out the good stuff in that scene, I still like listening to Motorhead,
Yeah, it's good to kind of keep your mind open, isn't it, to appreciating all sorts of stuff. I think because I got caught up, I think, in that kind of tribe thing. And you kind of, I think particularly sort of like mid-teens to mid-20s, you're really kind of trying to find who you are, and you can just align yourself so strongly with one group, one type of music if you're not careful.
Yeah.
When you first got decks, did you find it easy to start sort of learning to mix and stuff? Because I guess there wasn't a lot of guidance or anything sort of visual to look at to see how people were doing it.
No. Me and Nick went to the local library in Portishead and found a book, How to DJ. in like 1979, 1980. We shouldn't have many pictures in it. And yeah, that was like, how to be a kind of like mobile DJ really. But that's the only visual reference we had. I mean, yeah, because me and Nick started off doing like kids discos, we did start off doing mobile disco back in the day. I bought a set of like, Citronic double decks, whatever, all in one kind of setup. So which had really basic BSR turntables, no vari speed. So I kind of learned to mix on those really with disco records really. Like, spinning it around with your finger to get it in time. Yeah, so that would have been about, when did I get me disco decks? Probably like 1981 or something. So 86 I got my Technic. So 81 to 86 I was just using these disco decks.
So as you went on, were you getting many bookings? Because I can't imagine what it would have been like in Bristol, for example, because most of the people I've spoken to about DJing in the 80s, it's been more around London.
Yeah.
So what was Bristol like with the sort of musical scenes and things?
Well, it was great. I mean, as soon as I could get to Bristol, because like Paul said, is like 13 miles out of Bristol, so it was hard. It was hard to go out on a night out if you missed the last bus. You weren't getting home without a big taxi fare. Well, I can tell you the first time, actually, again, my mate Nick Hawkes, we decided we were going to go to a club in Bristol. This must have been 84-ish, something like that. And his dad drove us in and picked us up. God bless him. We went on a Tuesday night, and we just thought clubs were busy every night. So we just thought, let's go on a Tuesday. That works for us. And we went to this club on Park Street called Cinderella's, I think it was called. And expecting it to be rammed full of people on a Tuesday night. And I think the guy who's DJing was a guy called Dennis Richards, I believe it was. And we were surprised that we went in there and there was about 10 people in there. It's like, well, where is everybody? It's like nighttime, is there? But we had a great time. We just watched the DJ, remember hearing Earth, Wind and Fire. And that was my first club. Well, me and Nick, our first clubbing experience was on a Tuesday night, so we didn't pick the right night. But it was a good experience to go to. But then, when I found out, the better places to go were like the Tropic Club and the Moon Club. They were great. I mean, the Tropic, for example, was one I used to go to a lot, where there was like 2 floors. One floor would be playing all reggae, and then downstairs you'd be hearing like street soul and hip hop, early 80s, well, brand new at the time, hip hop, and that was pretty mind blowing, really. And then I started finding out about the crews who were doing things like who was it, like Too Bad were a good crew. Obviously, the Wild Bunch used to do a few house parties. I do remember going to a Wild Bunch house party in Clifton once, where they just took the decks into somebody's house and just started playing, and then seeing them at Carnival, St. Paul's Carnival, was amazing, because they had such a mad big sound system, and those are the days where they just played all night. They just, like, there was no cut off, and just Wild Bunch were just the coolest dudes ever, with like just 4 decks and then just all the threads and just all the cool tunes, labels on the tune, so you couldn't see what the tune was. I remember him cutting up it's probably Mushroom, I don't know, it might be Milo, cutting up Rocket in the Pocket by Cerrone, but it had a label stuck on it, so I just didn't know what it was. What's this tune? I don't know what it was. Found out later, but in those days, it was all a bit secretive about not sharing your tunes with anybody. But there was some great crews in Bristol doing some amazing, like it was like a mixture of like street soul and hip hop and the reggae. I mean, I listened to like the reggae sessions as well, but that's what when hip hop came along, it kind of blew my mind, really.
Yeah. What street soul?
Like what eventually became Soul to Soul. If you like, there were tracks before that were kind of because a lot of them came out of reggae, so they were kind of reggae influenced, kind of slow soul tunes, really. A lot, mainly UK ones, really.
So when hip hop sort of came on the scene, what was that like for Bristol? Because it's quite a big deal there, and sort of tradition, historically, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was great. It blew everything away, really. I think from what happened before, because before it was just the disco soul kind of crowd. I mean, there were some great nights and great DJs playing that kind of stuff. But then when the hip hop came in, it was just so much more edgy and you know, there were great DJs, great clubs, and you know, a shop started selling imports, I remember, and that was a big thing in Bristol because you'd have to go to London to get your imports in the early days, and then all of a sudden there were shops like Tony's Records and Replay Records that would start buying imports, bringing in imports so you could actually buy American records, and that was quite mind blowing. You know, buy things like, you know, that might not even come out in the UK. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So with that sort of burgeoning hip hop scene, did that kind of drag your focus in terms of mixing towards hip hop, or did you still kind of stay across the board all of that time?
I think I stayed across the board because in the 80s, of course, hip hop sampled lots of old funk and soul records, and it was the thing to find out what those records that were sampled were. So I was still, I mean, I guess I did gravitate towards hip hop more. But I was also trying to play the original funk and disco records that were sampled. So I always kind of kept it open with other music as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you train in anything else, or did you have an eye on anything else as a career, or like what was there this could be a career for me?
No, I mean, I did have an inclination to be like a sound technician at, I don't know, the BBC or something like that, and I was looking towards going in that area, and went on a course which would have taken me in that area, but like 17. But then I got glandular fever. I had to leave the course. I was ill for like about 4 or 5 months, and
oh wow,
I can never really catch up with it. So I ended up just I left that college and worked in a hi-fi shop actually for a while because I was into hi-fi and stuff and equipment as well. But then didn't really pursue the DJing as a job, and then went from the hi-fi shop to working in an office. Worked in an office for like 6 or 7 years probably. Still DJ'd at the weekend whenever I could with a friend of mine, Paul Morrissey, used to do a night. It was a quite respected DJ in Bristol, and he just used to let me kind of cut them on and spin a few tunes in this bar. Didn't get paid for it, and I didn't really ever think I would be DJing as a career at that point.
What was the office job? Just sort of admin?
We used to process nurse application forms for training, for nurse training courses like UCAS, but for nursing, basically.
Did you stay in that same job for all that 7 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
And pretty much every lunchtime, I used to go to the record shop. They used to think I was mad at work, so I was still buying records. I couldn't stop buying records. Often getting back 10 minutes late with my replay bag, trying to scoot in without everybody realizing that I'd been a bit too long at work. But me and another guy always used to meet up and go record shopping at lunchtime. So that was handy.
Yeah, I think it's good if you can get that kind of balance of, okay, it's not the ideal, perfect thing, but it's near the record shop. I can afford my records. I can go out and DJ at the weekend. Boom. You've got it all there. Because when I had quite a few sort of admin jobs, I'd just try and leave from being about 3 months in. I'd just think, right, it's going to be the same every day now after this. So I'd just try and leave. Whereas some of them, you think if I'd have stuck at that, I could have had quite a stress-free existence on quite a good wage for a while, But,
very different life it would have been, eh?
Yeah, that's it. So when did you start taking DJing more seriously then?
A friend of mine, another friend at school, used to do security at this club in Bristol, and they needed a DJ. And he said to me, they need a DJ, can you play at this club? And it was like every Friday and every Saturday, and I used to get 26 quid for both nights. So 26 quid a weekend. And I did that. And it was mainly playing kind of more pop music, really, I guess. Rock, it's a bit of a rock club, actually. Just play a bit Motorhead. But I didn't mind. I just used to like DJing. As long as I was DJing and making people have a good time, it was cool with me. And I saved up my money. So this was like 85 into 86. I worked there for about 10 months maybe, saved up my money because I was working in the admin job as well. So, I had a bit of cash coming in. I was getting cheap records as well, because when we work in the club, the record shop used to let you have cheap records, which was pretty good. And then I just saved up my money and I went into the hi-fi shop, which was opposite the club, in 1986 to buy my first SL 1200. And I said to the guy, because there was one DJ shop, but it was out of town. So to get like a Technics, you had to go to a hi-fi shop really in those days.
Yeah.
And I went in there and said, I want to buy an SL 1200. And he said to me, oh, do you want that one or do you want these new black ones? And I went, new black ones? I'd never seen a black one before. And the 1210 had just come in. And I was like, should I get a silver or a black one? I don't know. I had it in my mind. I was going to get a silver one because I'd only ever seen silver ones. And I was like, oh, no, I don't know. And I ended up buying the 1210s because they were kind of different. So I bought my first 1210 and then like a month later, I got my second one. And then I kind of got a bit fed up with like playing all the kind of pop music because I was really kind of into deeper stuff. So I decided to start doing, I used to play in like youth clubs with my 1210s. And like in like places around the outskirts of Bristol, so like Clevedon, Weston-super-Mare, and then I did a night in Portishead, which is where I met Jeff Barrow from Portishead, the band, because he came along to it. And although there was a few people there, he was the only one who really knew the stuff I was playing, especially the hip hop stuff. And I think I remember him coming up and saying, oh, that's Marley Marl Scratch. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's Marley Marl Scratch. Yeah. We were chatting about that. And then just kind of got to know Jeff really well. And he was working on beats and stuff and didn't really have any records to sample because Jeff is not really a digger of records too much. And I said, oh, I got loads of stuff. Do you want me to bring up some stuff, and I like play him, like James Brown's, it was kind of more obvious stuff than meters and stuff. He never heard the meters before. And we'd just put him onto bits. Have you heard that? That's got a drum break in it. You had to just find those records by listening to them and kind of gambling in those days, really. Because it was before I even had a portable turntable in those days. Yeah. I used to take my 1210 into a shop in Weston-super-Mare and plug in. They let me plug in with my headphones and I used to listen to stuff.
That's dedication.
Yeah, carrying a 1210 and a mixer into the shop. But that's how I found a lot of stuff. And I would just like say to Jeff, Jeff was the person who took those breaks and made the amazing compositions into the Portishead stuff. I was just kind of helping him, just pointing him in directions of what he might want to sample, really. Yeah.
Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU has been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on, so I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com, and if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. Yeah, because as I understand it, and do correct me if I'm wrong on this, you try and avoid too much being referred to as being kind of part of Portishead. Is that correct?
Well, I wasn't part of the band,
Yeah.
And I didn't do the cuts, so there were a lot of people who think I did do the cuts. Even like I always say this is a funny thing. Like even when I was taking crates of records up to he was still living in Portishead at his mum's house with he had a sampler and a computer and that. And I used to take crates up there, and he used to say, "Oh well, I'm going to start this band, and then when we're big, you can open up when we tour." And you can be the warm-up DJ. And I was like, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Jeff. and then maybe, well, it was like a good 6 years, maybe later, 7 years later, it did get big, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, you can now warm up for the band." And I thought, okay. Oh, and then these radio things keep coming in. The radio weren't essential mix. Oh well, Andy will do that because Jeff don't want to do that. So I end up doing the essential mix. I do these XFM takeovers and all this stuff, because Jeff didn't want to do it, but everybody wanted part of the whole Portishead thing. So I by default became the person who did all this extra stuff and the club DJ, because all these clubs wanted a Portishead DJ. There's a Portishead DJ that can play in our club, and that kind of fell to me rather than Jeff, because Jeff wouldn't really want to play in a club. He just he'd do some good cuts, but he didn't really know what to play next. So I kind of took on that role of being the Portishead club DJ, really. But there was obviously confusion because Jeff was doing the cuts in the band and I was doing the club stuff.
Yeah, that must be tricky.
Yeah, so I always felt a bit bad when people talk about me as being part of Portishead, because I was on the peripheral edge of Portishead, but can't take any credit in what happened later on with the tracks and Beth and Aid, and that was the real magic, really. I just kind of gave Jeff some ideas and he made the amazing stuff that he did.
Yeah. So just going back to when you got your 1210s, at that time, with it being pretty new, did it give you any sort of kudos? Have you heard this guy, Andy Smith? He's got 1210s now. He's serious.
Well, I think in Portishead, I think there was this thing about, there's only two people with a set of 1210s. There was another guy, we had 1200s actually, and I had 1210s. So it did get around Portishead, yeah, because I used to sell mixtapes at bus stops.
At bus stops?
Well, I used to do mixtapes at home, hip hop mixtapes, and then me and my friend Alan, we used to kind of drive around all the bus stops and try and sell them to all the kids who were getting into hip hop, the younger kids, want to buy mixtapes. Mixtapes out the window. That's kind of funny. Yeah.
How did that go? Did you make a bit of money out of it?
I don't think we made that much, but it was just more of a, kudos thing, really, to be the person
right.
in Portishead that was doing this and had all the, the hot tunes.
So did the DJing sort of gradually increase over that time before the kind of Portishead success, or was it it just kind of chugged along and then that was a big step? Yeah,
it chugged along. I was doing nights with my friend Paul, and we did used to do some back rooms of pretty big clubs. Like Lakota was a big club in Bristol, where all the kind of techno trance DJ used to play in the main room, but me and Paul used to do the back room sometimes. Did a night called Fish Dude, I seem to remember, where we'd be playing hip hop and soul stuff as a back room. But so did that a bit, but it wasn't really until I got made redundant from the admin job that I did, and then ended up working in HMV for about maybe 3 or 4 months. And that was just at the time when the Portishead album came out. And I was basically answering the phone, and it was people trying to book me to DJ. So I was taking DJ bookings on the HMV phone. And then Jeff, as I said to me, well, we're going to do the first tour. This would have been 95, I guess, early 95. That was a European tour, first of all. So it was probably about 2 months. And I said to my manager at HMV, I said, I need 2 months off to go on tour with Portishead. Obviously, you knew who Portishead was because we were selling crazy amount of copies out the shop. And I said, is there any chance I can have 2 months off and come back? And he was like, no. I was like, oh, okay, bye then. And that was it. I left HMV, went on tour with Portishead, and then I was just getting so many DJ bookings, it just snowballed and went crazy. And then I went on the world tour with Portishead in 98. 97, yeah, 97, and then I did the document CD because I played on a radio station in Boston after a Portishead gig, and they liked it so much. The guy who ran FFR Records in New York, who put out the Portishead records in America, said, "Do you want to do this as a proper mix CD type thing? Because the reaction to that radio show you did was amazing." And I was like, oh, okay. So that was amazing that I got to put out something which was me rather than, hanging off the tails of Portishead still, So that was like the best thing when the document came out, and it was like, oh, this is my thing. It's like, it starts with a Jeff Barrow kind of Portishead type track, but then, so it kind of, it moves from there, working with Portishead, into me and the crazy stuff that I did. So I was that was the best thing when that happened, when that came out, and it did really well, sold really well, and it kind of, it started to go upwards from there. It's kind of gone down a bit now, maybe, but that was the good point for me.
Yeah, we can get onto that for sure, because there's some interesting points around it in some of what you just said. So what was it like touring Europe? How old would you have been?
Like 20. No, 22 maybe. Yeah.
Going around Europe, getting paid. Were you able to? Was it easy to get to record shops?
I used to go to record shops every day. I mean, the great thing, all I had to do was a line check, because I do the warm up bit, and then I do a scratch bit to a video before the band came on, and then I would help Jeff every now and again recreate some of the cuts when it was hard to do, and I need to just do a little transform bit in the middle of the set. So I did the odd bit with this in the middle of the set, but not much. So all I had to do was make sure my decks were working. So basically, my go to the gig, put a tune on. You got both channels? Yeah, thanks. Right, I'll go to the record shop. And every day, nice. In every city, I just go to the record shop. It was Yellow Pages in those days, wasn't it? Well, the internet was just kind of starting. So I used to go to the Yellow Pages and in the hotel room and just go record shopping wherever I went. And I used to get all the records sent back with all the Portishead kit, so I didn't even have to ship them home, because I could just I had my own box with my equipment and decks and everything in a flight case. So I just used to put records in there and wait a month, and they'd just come back to the studio in Bristol. It was great.
What was touring like in terms of schedule? Was it kind of like 6 on 1 off or something like that, or?
It was pretty intense, actually. Yeah, it was probably something like that. I mean, well, and in parts of America as well, you jump on a bus. So that would be quite good. You do the gig and then jump on the bus, play video games until you wanted to go to sleep, while you were then on the way to the next city. Then, you sleep on the bus, wake up next morning, you'd be in the next city outside the hotel, go into the hotel, go record shopping, do line check, go back to the record shop if it's still open, and then do the gig, and then back on the bus again. Yeah, it was a crazy existence.
Yeah. It's the stuff of dreams. Are there any particular cities or kind of digging memories that are special to you from those sort of trips?
Well, I do remember New Orleans in America was... So there was a record shop. It was just 1 block away from the gig as well, which is pretty handy. And then I had a portable now, so I was checking stuff out on my portable deck, carried that everywhere with me. People, the guys in the band used to laugh at me because I was always walking around with my portable. Still do today, actually. And there was one store where, because I always have been to 45s, but I was buying albums and 12s and 45s in those days. But there was a shop, and every 45 was 20 cents. And they had all the big funk records that everybody pays crazy money for now, and they were all 20 cents. And I started listening to them, and there were so many. I just thought, actually, I got to go and do my line check in a minute, and then see if they're still open for maybe half an hour, and then they're shut, and then we're going tomorrow. It was like, there's actually no point in listening to them, because I'm wasting time listening to them to see if it's any good. So if it looked good, I just put it in a pile, and I went backstage, the House of Blues in New Orleans. I went backstage to this massive pile of records, and that was probably one of the few times where I didn't watch Portishead, because I'd seen it so many times. It's always great, but I was just in the back room just listening to these tunes when I wasn't on, and then if they were good, that's great. And if it was rubbish, I just left it backstage. There's a pile of records in the backstage of House of Blues that somebody must have picked up, which was all country and western stuff that I got wrong.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to tell, isn't it? Because some of that, that kind of New Orleans and places like that. Because you got the kind of country-esque stuff that Alan Toussaint produced that's actually quite funky as well.
Oh, yeah, there is some crossover. But it's weird, because I was in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago, and I was saying to somebody, the weird thing is, it's like in the UK, they only really imported like good records. Well, in general, you know, so if you see an American record, it's usually a disco, funk, jazz record. It's usually all right, because otherwise it wouldn't have imported it. But when you go to America, all these records that look like they're records that we see over here, and half of them are just terrible pop or country west, but the label looks quite nice. If you don't know the artist, sometimes you can get a bit confused and a bit blown away, thinking, oh, there's so many great records, but actually a lot of them aren't that great, but they just look interesting, you know.
Yeah. What was your kind of hit rate percentage like on that Louisiana trip?
Oh, amazing. I mean, I cleaned up on that place. I mean, I just got crazy. I don't know how many 45s I bought that day, like 200 or more, probably, all for 20 cents. And I went back there. The next time I was in New Orleans, I went directly back to that shop, and it was an art gallery. And I said, didn't this used to be a record shop? And somebody said, yeah, somebody came and bought the whole shop, probably like Japanese. I think the Japanese guys, even in those days, I remember used to go to America and buy the whole shop and send it back to Japan. So they probably...
Wow. Yeah, the Japanese don't mess around, do they, when it comes to collecting?
No, they don't. Although the great thing about Japan, I find, a few times I've been there, is that the Japanese, they are super into what they're doing, but they like everything in mint condition. So when you go to a record shop in Japan, I went to this amazing reggae shop, and all the stuff on the wall, all the stuff in the main racks was all mint VG plus, but underneath was all the VGs and G pluses, but I don't know, reggae, I don't mind if it sounds a bit rough. And I was just buying all the stuff underneath, which was just so cheap, because they didn't really want it. If it had a few marks on it, they didn't care about it. But I don't really mind that if it sounds all right. So, you know, reggae sounds nice when it's a bit rough, I think.
Yeah, well, it's the same with soul and funk, isn't it? If it's got the right type of crackle on it,
exactly.
It can add something, particularly on a snare drum.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be really kind of effective. When I was in Berlin, I noticed there that... all the second-hand stuff was really, really clean. It makes you wonder sometimes why a lot of the stuff over here is just as beat up as it is.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
sure.
like, you know, when you find something you've wanted for ages and you're like, you're about to go and buy it, and then you think, I should check the condition. Because I've done it before. I've bought things that have had like cracks in them and all sorts, and nothing expensive. I've not been like really burnt, but you just get it home and you're like, oh yeah, it's like I've had a 7 where it's got like a hairline crack, and if you move it, you can just see it. And
oh yeah, I pulled that tune last night. I was DJing last night. It was a Barbara Mason 45, and queued it up, and I thought, that's a bit of a click on that. And I realised it's actually snapped. I mean, I didn't remember it being snapped when I put it in the box. It was snapped. No. It's not a rare one, so I'll get another one. I work in a record shop now, so probably one will come in soon.
Oh, nice. Have you got any kind of stories then where it's like the one that got away? Because I've had a couple. So say, for a bit of context, our local car boot sale, I went down there. There was a guy who used to be a joiner fitting out studios in London. He had a load of test pressings and signed bits and bobs. So I bought a few signed, I think, Oasis CDs and like a bit of signed Paul Weller stuff. And then I got a Sex Pistols test pressing and a Jam test pressing off the top of my head.
Nice.
And... the Oasis and stuff I got, I don't know, about 20 quid a piece for. But the test pressings I got sort of over 100 quid each. Basically, they were how I was able to buy Serato when I first got Serato, which was quite nice.
Yeah.
But like after that, there's just this bit of you that's like, I should have got all these test pressings. They were probably about 4 quid each or something like that. Have you got anything sort of in that way?
Nothing springs to mind, really. I usually, get whatever I can and spend too much money rather than leave things behind, I think. So I don't think there's anything like that.
So I heard somewhere, and this might have been like schoolyard urban myth or something, that when the Portishead stuff was being done, that there was something that was being sampled and it didn't sound messed up enough, so they just took the record out and just like rubbed it on the street or something like that to make it sound more distressed. Yeah. Is that sort of thing? Is that true?
That's Jeff. Yeah. He would when he sampled records, I think he would sometimes put them on the floor and kick him about a bit, so it sounded rougher when he sampled it. Yeah. He used to bounce stuff down cassette as well. He'd do a beat and record it onto a tape cassette and then bounce it back into the desk to make it sound rough.
Right.
And all the engineers would say, you can't do that, you can't do that.
Well, how's that for you when, as a DJ, when he's just like rubbing a record on the floor and playing football with it? Did he do it to anything good?
Oh, yeah, I didn't see him do it. I probably had to walk out the room. Well, no, I think a lot of the times he used to do his own like dub plates. Like for the tours, for example, there would be I got a few of them in the corner. Records that were created with all the cuts on, which has actually got the GB beats on the other side with a couple of other beats which were never used. So he probably would have rubbed those on the floors just so they sound good when he's cutting them up live.
Right, got you.
Yeah.
So just going back on your timeline then, with, say, like sort of mid-late 90s, Bristol's influence was massive, sort of, I guess you'd maybe say mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a really strong, good feeling in the community there at the time? And did some of the different, because there was you guys, there was Massive Attack, there was Tricky, there's Left Field, there's all these acts at the same time that really kind of popped. Were you guys kind of going out touring together at times or like crossing paths a lot?
No, not really. I mean, there was a link between Jeff and the Massive Attack guys because Jeff worked in the studio where they recorded their first album. And it was basically Massive Attack that gave Jeff that sampler and computer that he had in his bedroom because he was the tea boy who's making the tea, getting the sandwiches really, but they somehow found out that he had a bit of a thing for making music, so they gave him this kit, and I don't know for what reason, whether they wanted him to work on some beats for them. I'm not sure really what happened about that. I mean, he did do a track with Tricky, but I don't think it ever came out. So there was definitely a camaraderie between Portishead and Massive Attack, but I guess everybody was aware of everybody because you used to see each other in clubs and stuff, and and there was definitely something kind of building in Bristol, and there was definitely kind of a proud kind of thing that something was happening. Although it was weird because all the A&R people would come down to Bristol to try and find the next thing, and I remember people were thinking, well, there's probably good stuff in other cities as well, really, just not looking for it, because we were aware of other things that were buzzing around in other places, like there's other good cities doing good stuff.
Yeah. Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU has been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on, so I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com, and if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. So how was DJing after those tours? Did that give you a lot more kind of brand awareness for yourself? Like, did you kind of kick on?
Yeah, because of the document doing so well. And luckily, I mean, the document went through the same channels as the Portishead record, so it got released in every country of the world. So it didn't have to be imported to Australia or wherever it came out there. So it sold really, really well and was great for me. And I used to tour like myself. I then went on like a tour, took various tours of America on my own, went to Australia, throughout Europe. So I was kind of promoting it. And I guess a lot of people had seen me warming up for Portishead before, probably wondering who's that guy, whether they liked it or not. But and I was actually like on the flyer, it would say Portishead with DJ Andy Smith at the bottom. It's like, wow. So so a lot of people would have seen me either before Portishead or in clubs, because I was playing every weekend. Then it was barely a weekend going where I didn't get offers of gigs somewhere in the world. I mean, I remember there used to be crazy weekends. One of the funniest was Friday night in Swindon, Saturday night in Moscow. I used to have crazy weekend. Not that would happen now. Crazy weekends like that, where you just be doing really disparate gigs in different places. But that's the way it worked. If I could do it, if I could get a flight to the next place, then I'd do it. So
that sounds exhausting to me.
Yeah, it was, but good.
I mean, with the document, there's certain mixes, aren't there, that are kind of legendary. And I would say the document's in there with things like dirt chamber sessions and stuff like that. Does it bring a level of expectation about what sort of set at that time when you've got this mix that's doing so well? Is it like, do you feel like you've got to do a certain style? Because when you've got all these different styles that you play, does it kind of restrict you?
Well, I think at the time, it's quite interesting, because at the time when that came out, I actually used to pre-plan my set for a while. And I actually went to the club and I did a set which was similar to the document. Not exactly the same, because there'd be other bits in there as well, and it'd obviously be 2 hours long. But I used to actually program a set, and I would just, so it didn't matter what the last tune was, I would start with where I wanted to start and do the whole thing, which was good because it got everything I wanted to get in. But I quickly got fed up with doing it because I just realized, well, this isn't actually that much fun, because I like doing things on the fly and not really know where I'm going. So I did that for a bit, but then I quickly just thought, no, I'm just going to wing it now. And then I'll be in a club. Even now, I'm in a club and people will say, what's the first record you're going to play? And I got no idea. It depends what the last record the guy before plays, and just go from there. And I might carry on from where he is at, or I might just start where I want to start. It depends, really.
Yeah, it's like I used to do cuts for a band for a couple of years, and I found it's weird getting on turntables and doing the same thing every time.
Yeah.
Where you just think when you go out and DJ, you just want to play what you feel. You're there, you're gauging the atmosphere of places and stuff. And I sometimes think with bands, like going off and doing the same set every gig, or the same songs every gig.
Well, it's like the band who doesn't want to play their big hit, isn't it? Because they're so fed up with playing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, when I DJ in most places I play, I still play big records that I don't particularly want to hear anymore. I'm sick of them, really. But I know that people will want to hear them, and I know that they'll go down well, and so I play them, and I do equate that to a band who have to play their biggest record because people want to hear it. People expect to hear it.
Yeah, no, I'd never thought about it like that.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Gary Newman. I love Gary Newman. I want to hear Cars. I want to hear Our Friends Electric. He's probably sick to death of it, but I want to hear those tunes because that's what is my memories of first, being into Gary Newman. We're hearing those tracks, and it wouldn't be right if I didn't hear them. So
yeah. So from the document, then you're now kind of 4 in. From there, you started doing more kind of compilations. How did they come about?
Well, I started working with a guy called Scott Hendy on a project called Dynamo Productions for Illicit Records, which was just like kind of cut and paste kind of hip hop type stuff, because we were DJing together a lot in those days and we wanted tracks to play out ourselves. So we just made like an album of stuff that we could play out, which bizarrely did really well in Australia. We were really popular in Australia, which was quite nice. We just do sell-out gigs in like bloody 1,500 capacity venues. It was crazy. But because that was on Illicit, which was a label co-run by Deadly Avenger back in the day, and they said, have you ever thought of doing part 2 of the document, because it had been, well, this would have been like 4, 5, 6 years, I think, since document 1 had come out. And nobody's approached me about doing part 2. So they were like, do you want to do second one? So I was like, yeah, why not? So they licensed all the tracks. I put Kate Bush at the beginning, which they couldn't understand why I wanted to do that. But I just thought I wanted to do something different. And then, so that one came out, and then I was working with Sanctuary on like the Trojan document CD album. And then, so they said, do you want to do volume 3? So I'm like, okay, I can use anything on that Sanctuary owned at the time. So I did a volume 3 on Sanctuary. And then volume 4 was going to come out on Universal, but they kind of dipped out at the last minute, didn't want to put it out, which is why I kind of put it out myself. But also, I like I said, did the Trojan one. I've done a reggae one for Green Sleeves. I've done like Northern Soul compilations because I like my Northern Soul. I've done 50s R&B compilations. I've done disco compilations. I just like lots of music, and if somebody is up for me putting a comp out of stuff, then I'll gladly do it.
Have you got any particular ones that are your favourite? Because you've got this BGP one as well, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, the BGP, and, yeah.
That must be fun, just being like, right, here's our library, go for it.
Yeah, it's great. And they send you, in those days, they just send you like boxes of CDs, because, it wasn't, things were online, but not in the same way. So you used to get boxes and boxes. It's like, you can use anything on these CDs. I was like, wow. So I'd just go through these CDs, and I'd either try and source them on vinyl, but some of them weren't even on vinyl. They were just digital only. So, but they were like little bits I used to use off of digital on there. But I think my favourite compilation, which never even came out on vinyl, bizarrely, is the Green Sleeves compilation, because I grew up with the Green Sleeves reggae label and really loved it. And I think all the tracks on there are just so great. And although all my compilations have got great tracks on, but no filler. But I did that as a collaboration with a guy called Brother Culture. So he does some toasting on some of the instrumentals, and bigs me up and stuff. And I even got dub plates cut of those so I can play them out separately. And I just, if I'm going to listen to any of my comps, which I don't tend to really do at all, it would probably be that one, because I just think it still sounds really great from start to finish.
Yeah, I suppose it's like, it's a weird one now, because it's, you can go on Spotify or let me rephrase that. You can go on any audio streaming platform, because we're not biased towards any of them, and curate that list yourself. It's just you've got the luxury where yours get released to the public.
Well, yeah, it was different times. I guess all those streaming platforms didn't exist, and yeah, the only way you could have like a continuous mix thing was by buying a CD. And it's funny because the albums that come out now, like the Reach Up one, which just came out on BBE, I'm kind of somewhat surprised that they actually put it out on CDs still, because you think, how many people buy CDs? But I was glad to get Scratch Bastard to do the mix version of the last Reach Up compilation. So, because do you know Scratch Bastard?
I don't know him personally, but he's an incredible DJ.
He is. He's an amazing DJ. And he actually, the first time I saw him on Twitch, and I went in the chat and he realized it was me, he actually sent me a message, direct message, asking for my phone number. And after he finished doing his stream, he called me and to tell me that the reason that he DJs the way he does, playing all kinds of different music, is because he heard the document, which blew me away.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he just taking it to another level because he's so good. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I guess because I think he did like the Red Bull 3 style stuff.
Yeah, he did.
Which I think kind of works well with kind of open format rather than being more rigidly hip hop with a bit of drum and bass. But yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, you see, I believe that like he's taken the culture of DJing to the next level, and is one of the best DJs in the world I've ever seen. And he doesn't seem to really get enough props for it. I mean, he's massive on Twitch. Everybody knows him on Twitch. But if you speak to somebody who doesn't watch Twitch, have you ever heard of him? They don't know who he is. And I saw him in London, and I mean, it was a Sunday night gig, but it wasn't rammed full. It should have been, he's just so good. So, which is why I said, do you want to do the mix of the reach up thing? Because I just thought he needs to get his name out there a bit more, and people need to be more aware of him. So he was really happy to do that, and I was happy to have him to do it because it's better than I would have done.
Yeah, I suppose he's definitely like a DJ's DJ, isn't he? Like,
yeah.
Any sort of DJs that are aware of him just think he's the absolute bollocks.
Yeah. Everything. His skills are just incredible. Selection's incredible, and he's such a nice guy as well. And just total, be about bringing positive vibes to other people. It's just everything he says is just so uplifting, and it's what you need in the world today. It's just so positive. It's so brilliant.
Yeah. Have you had the opportunity to go to any of his barbecues?
No, I've not actually.
I mean, they look amazing. But yeah, just on his kind of open formatness, like I saw him cutting up a Kenny Rogers tune the other day, and I was just like, what is this? So like funky. It was kind of like yacht rocky, I guess. But yeah, it was really good. But yeah, because going back to the Greensleeves then, Greensleeves is they were primarily lovers rock, right?
No, they did early dancehall as well.
Oh, okay.
Mainly early dancehall, really. Not that much.
Right. Because I know, like, your lovers rock mix.
Oh, yeah.
Or your volume 1, that's probably one of the things I've listened to the most on Mixcloud.
Is it? Oh.
Oh, mate, I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that kind of came out with little fanfare, really. It just kind of slipped out. It was only digital. Again, they didn't want to do vinyl. So don't think a lot of people even know about that. But
oh, it's absolutely fantastic. I think on a sunny day as well, perfect.
Yeah.
Because, I think like with lovers rock, it's not like a quote-unquote cool genre, is it?
I think it's going to become cool again, actually, in recent times. Because of working in a record shop, a lot of people are now kind of gravitating towards lovers rock and want to buy it. It's kind of an underground thing, and I think it is cool again, actually. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So, are you still, or let's say, like just up to COVID, have you been able to keep like a regular sort of travel schedule with DJing, or has there kind of been ups and downs with it?
I'd say up until COVID, it was still good. I mean, it wasn't as good as the glory days before, but I could easily keep paying my bills out of it and support my family out of it. And then obviously COVID hit and it all went wrong. Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, it's not something I've spoken to on here with anyone for a while. Was it kind of like mentally tough? Because I know, like, I find at certain times when I've got lean times with work, it definitely affects me more than it should, more than I would like it to.
No, I don't think it affected me mentally. I was quite glad for a break, if anything, and it just meant I had I guess I was trying to see the positives of it. It meant I had a break from repacking records every week for gigs, which I used to do all the time, and meant I can just go into some tunes and reevaluate them and try and practice my skills. I did the Twitch thing, the Facebook Live thing first of all, and the Twitch thing. I used to do that with my wife, who likes DJing a bit as well. So that was our Friday night out, get a bottle of wine, come up here into the loft and go on Twitch. Nice. And that was kind of nice. I mean, we got kids, and I think it probably affected them quite a bit, which isn't good. But and it was a problem financially, obviously, because I was waiting for payouts from the government, which were just ages and ages to arrive, so it was getting pretty tight on that. And I just thought all the clubs would shut, and I didn't think that I'd have a job anymore, because there was all this talk about clubs not being able to keep going because they weren't getting the payments either, and I just thought, there's going to be no place to play, and it did dip when we came out. It took ages for it to build up again. And financially it was pretty bad for me, which is why I had to start working in a record shop, which I still do. But so it was definitely tough. It seems to be just kind of hopefully back where we were before now. The last few months I've been super busy again, so it's good.
With the record shop, do people kind of spot you and ask you very specific stuff or anything?
Every now and again, somebody recognises me or say, "You Andy Smith," which is kind of funny, but that's all right. I don't mind. And well, I'm happy for them to pick my knowledge. I'm happy to share what knowledge I've got. So yeah, it's good. It's nice.
What's coming up next for you?
What's coming up next? Well, more DJing, really. DJing tonight in London. I've got a lot of London gig. London again next week. Croatia is coming up. Dublin. It's just DJing, really. In terms of releases, so I've just put the Reach Up Disco Wonderland comp out on BBE. I think the next thing that's going to come out is a mix CD and cassette for a label called Weaponized. I don't know if you're aware of a thing called Weaponized. They put out about maybe 5 or 6 mix CDs. Format was the first one.
Was that his Beatles one?
It was the Beatles one, yeah, which is great, isn't it? I played that in the shop once, and people were like, "What's this?" But yeah, so I'm doing a mix for them, and this kind of relates to the next 2 things I got coming out, because I decided I was going to do a soundtrack mix, because before Portishead, when I did the opening set, it was all soundtracks and like original samples of hip hop records mainly. And I used to love doing that, because it's like you play these amazing soundtracks, Lalo Schifrin and Mancini and all that, on this massive sound system. It used to sound beautiful. And I just thought, there's something I've never kind of gone back to. And I do love those soundtracks. Just sonically, they're amazing. And I thought it would be great to have a CD of all that stuff I used to play. I don't think there's any like soundtrack mix CD. I mean, not that it's mixed. It's just, one will flow into the next. But I don't think there's a definitive CD of the best soundtrack stuff. So I was going to do that for Weaponized, and I gave him the mix, and the guy who was mastering it said, There's a funny noise on this recording. I thought it was one track, but it's throughout. There's a funny noise, and I couldn't hear it.
No, was it ground?
Well, basically, it took me about a month to find what it was. And I couldn't really hear it. At my hearing, I got a bit tinnitus. I couldn't really hear it, but I had to turn basically the system up to the max, and I could just hear on one channel a bit of a funny noise. So I basically had to keep unplugging everything, and then I thought it was something to do with maybe the mains and something downstairs or the washing machine or something. And then I kept sending recordings to the guy who was mastering. I said, "Is it gone now? Is it gone now?" He said, "No, it's still there. It's still there." And it was basically the very last thing that I pulled out was my main desk that I listened to everything through, which is why I haven't pulled it out, because I'm listening to everything through the main desk. And I pulled it out and recorded something without it plugged in, and I sent it to him and said, "Is it gone now?" He said, "Yeah, it's gone." So it was basically, it's the power supply on my main desk is a bit dodgy. So basically, so that didn't come out. And then by that time, Weaponized had released a few other of their CDs, because I think they'd only done the format one at that point. And then I realized that the other CDs were pretty much on the hip hop tip. So I was thinking, maybe my soundtrack CD might be a bit jarring in the series. So what I basically have done for them is I've done a mix of hip hop album tracks that were never singles that I think are really good. Because that's
nice.
one of the streams I used to do, not very often, but every now and again I think of different kind of streams to do on Twitch. And every now and again I just play hip hop LP cuts. Because there's a load of great LP cuts in the late 80s into early 90s that were never singles, but I think they just stand up really well as good tracks. So I just did it. So I've done a mix of that, and the Weaponized guys really like it. So that's going to come out probably early next year. And then I still want to do the soundtrack mix, and I've even got the artwork done for it, because it got done by Mark, who did the artwork for all the document series and the Portishead albums. So I've got the artwork, but I now need to redo the soundtrack mix because it's got buzz in it. And I'll probably just self-release that like I did with Document 4 and just put it out myself. So it's like, it's my own thing. So if it doesn't sell, it's on me. It's not part of the Weaponized thing. So, but I think it'll be nice to soundtrack mix, we'll see.
So we touched upon this earlier in the show, and I think it's kind of probably fair to say that you're one of kind of a small group of people that can still put out mixes and get the love for them, because kind of like the widespread appreciation for mixes just isn't quite what it used to be in the late 90s and the early noughties.
No, I guess it's like it's old hat now, and it's like anybody can do it, and you don't even need to be able to do it with the sync button, I guess, and all that stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with using technology that's new, but so it just, what's the big deal if anybody can do it? I know it's about selection as well, but nobody seems to care about it. I remember meeting one girl once when I was playing in a bar who was a DJ, young girl, and she, just chatting to her, find out what the vibe was. And she once said to me, yeah, but mixing is irrelevant now. Nobody cares about mixing anymore, and they would rather it not be mixed. And
right.
It just fade out and the next one fade in one of these hi-fi listening bars on an amazing sound system. That's more important than the fact that it's mixed, and the fact that you can mix it in some ways kind of just shows you're just the old generation. I was like, really? But surely I was trying to argue my point. Surely it's better if you're dancing and it goes into the next tune. But I guess it's been done for so many years. I think to a lot of younger people it doesn't matter.
So I wonder if there's, like, people maybe don't, because music's so kind of disposable now, people just maybe don't get the time to learn songs as intimately. So what's great with mixing is when songs are recontextualized. I think you hear a song after that you've been kind of, but you're impartial about, and then you hear it in the right context, and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. But I've not realised how good this tune is before. Yeah. And with the art of the mix, it's like when people know a song well and it's teased in and stuff, and it's kind of that composition, maybe if they don't know the songs very well because you're listening to a new Spotify playlist every week, a new
audio
random MP3 streaming service playlist every week, then you don't get that. It doesn't land in the same way, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess times change and the way it's perceived is changed, and everybody's a DJ now, so it's not as special, I guess, as it was. I mean, when I used to start DJing, people would be hanging on what I was playing, like literally. Well, let me say this. When I used to start DJing, people would trust me to play them great music. And nowadays, people think that they know better.
Yeah.
Some people would trust me, but a lot of people are like, trying to tell me what I should do, because they curate their own streaming platform playlists. So, why can't they do that at a club? There was once, this is a great story I got to tell you. Me and Nick were DJing in this bar in South London, doing our disco night, I think it was. Oh, no, it wasn't. Actually, it was across the board set. Anyway, this girl came up. I was playing tunes, and this girl came up to Nick. The crowd was vibing, going really well. And this girl came up to Nick by the side of the decks, and she said, "Skip." And he's,
what?
Sorry, skip. Sorry, what do you mean? Skip, don't like this one, skip. She demanded that the tune skip to the next, as she does on a playlist or iPod, whenever it was. I can't remember, it was a while ago. And
wow.
She demanded, and then Nick had to kind of explain to her, well, do you think it's correct that we skip with all these people who are enjoying it? But she was, thought that she had the control of the whole night and the whole place, and demanded it be skipped. How odd.
Man. Self-awareness is lacking in some people, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know.
Andy, it's been lovely to chat to you. I'll let you get back to your day off.
Thank you.
Where can people find you online?
Right, well, I am on, Instagram, Facebook, Mixcloud, and luckily I managed to get DJ Andy Smith. So everything is the site /DJ Andy Smith. So Instagram /DJ Andy Smith, blah, blah, blah. DJandysmith.com is my website, which is still running. To find out where I'm playing. I try and update that as much as I can. If you, Instagram, I guess, is the best to hook up with me, send me a message, whatever. Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, thanks a lot for your time today.
Thank you.
And look forward to keeping an eye on the new projects.
Cheers. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk.
Oh, that was nice.